the traveler's gift. There is a cold that is more than the absence of heat, a silence that is more than the absence of sound. It was in such a world that a lone traveler found himself, journeying through a landscape of endless white. The wind, a tireless sculptor, had carved the world from snow and ice, and its touch was a blade against his skin. Each step was a battle against the clinging, bottomless drifts that sought to claim him for their own. A treacherous lethargy began its slow invasion, a cold that seeped past skin and muscle to the very marrow of his bones. It was the quiet promise of oblivion, the sweet, deadly lullaby of the frost, whispering of a final, dreamless sleep. His life's fire, once a roaring blaze, was now but a flickering ember. At last, the will to fight dissolved into the swirling white. His strength abandoned him, and he sank to his knees in the forgiving snow. The world, with all its struggles, began to fade. He was ready to surrender his soul to the great and silent cold. But as his senses dimmed, another sound pierced the storm's lament. It was not the wind nor the shifting snow, but the faint, unmistakable moan of a fellow human being, a fragile note of suffering in the vast, indifferent symphony of the storm. The last ember of his spirit stirred, fanned by this unexpected sound. Summoning a reserve of strength he did not know he possessed, he pushed through a great drift and found its source. There, half buried in a frozen shroud, lay another man. He was a statue of ice and despair, his breath a shallow ghost in the frigid air. He was perishing. In that moment, the traveler forgot his own plight. A feeling deeper than his own pain, a profound and simple humanity surged through him. He knelt in the snow and began to chafe the stranger's ice-clad limbs. His own fingers were numb and clumsy, but his purpose was clear. He worked against the grip of the frost, rubbing and striking the frozen limbs until a faint sign of life returned. Then, with a mighty effort, he lifted the man from his snowy grave. The stranger could not stand, so the traveler took him upon his own shoulders, a burden of shared existence against the storm. He turned and faced the storm once more, plunging back into the very drifts to which he had nearly surrendered. But the journey was different now. The weight of his companion was an anchor, a purpose. Each step was a battle, but now it was a battle fought for two. And a strange thing happened. The earnest effort of his struggle sent a shock of life through his own veins. The blood that had grown sluggish and cold now quickened, flowing with a powerful, life-giving heat. In the act of warming his companion, he had warmed himself. He pressed on, step by laborious step, until at last, through the blinding white, he saw the dark promise of a sheltered cave. He carried his companion into its quiet refuge, away from the wind's fury, and gently laid him down. As he watched the faint stirrings of life return to the stranger's face, a profound truth illuminated his soul. He looked at his own hands, red with effort but glowing with a warmth that came from within. He had set out only to save another, but in doing so, he had saved himself. And he understood then that the fire we kindle for another is the very flame that will light our own way through the darkest night.